In this video, I'm going to show you how to go to Dr. Jones's website and go and get his software that he allows anyone to use for free, and then we're going to analyze those two shots that we took in the previous video. So I'm starting from my own website, dryfireus.com. I'm going to go up here and modify the address, and I'm going to change that address to www.shotgun-insight.com. I'm going to hit enter and go to his website. So here we are on his homepage. Now, we're going to come right down here to the middle and click on Shotgun Insight. And this is going to take us to a second page, and the place you're going to want to go is to the top here where it says go to the downloads page directly, because you want to download his applet. And then you're going to come down here, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to click on this arrowhead right here just below where it says Launch Program. When it does that, it opens up this panel, and this panel is now looking for the appropriate Java version to operate with his software. And if your machine doesn't have that on it, then it's going to help you go and get the right version of Java so that all of that will work. Now, all I have to do on mine at this point is just simply say I'm willing to accept the risk of running this application because mine does have the proper Java. So I'm going to hit run, and now this portion right here where it says Shotgun Insight filled in quite quickly, but on yours, the first time you open it, it'll take a little while before that fills in. But when that finally fills in and you can see what you're seeing now, Shotgun Insight, go ahead and do a left click on it. And when you left click on it, you are now in the program that you're going to use to analyze the two shots, in this case, that we took. Now, we're going to start by going to the upper left-hand corner, and we're going to click on Input. And we're going to select the top one, which says Open New Camera Images, because I have downloaded and put two camera images on my desktop. So I'm going to left click on that. When this opens up, I'm going to go up here and I want to look in on the desktop, which if I scroll to the top, I'll find Desktop. And now I can see all of the things that are on my desktop. I'm going to move it all the way over to the right, where I have the two JPEG files that I put on the desktop, one called Tom's First Top Barrel and Tom's Second Lower Barrel. So let's go ahead and double click on the first one, and we now are going to be bringing in that image, and this is the analysis tool. I'm going to go in the upper right hand corner and full screen this. And then I'm going to go here on the right hand side and put in some details so that when I print out a copy of my details, I don't get confused. So I'm going to start out by saying, in this case, that we were using Winchester AA's, and it was a 12 gauge. You can see here that you could pick out different gauge guns. And we were using an 1 1/8 load, so I'm going to put that in here. We were using number 8s, so I'm going to put in number 8s. And then the gun we were using, for now, I'm just going to call it Tom's gun. Go back and capitalize that, make it look a little bit better. And I'm going to go on to describe that as the first shot upper barrel. And then the venue, I'm just going to call it Tom's Range. And now over on the right hand side, you can pick out whether it was a plastic wad or a fiber wad, and this of course is a plastic wad. Our test distance was 33 yards. The choke that we were using was a full choke, and the scale is we're going to leave at 1:1, and let's leave today's date in here, which is February 19th. And now we have everything on the right hand side filled in. And now we're going to go to the left-hand side where we begin to manipulate the data. Now this big area on the left, which you don't see anything in right now, is actually the viewing area. And I'm going to go up here into this area where we can zoom and make it smaller. I'm going to click several times. In fact, I'm going to click it until this window is as small as possible. And now we got some scrolls where you can see I can move this all the way over You can see this is the same room where we took the picture. There's a skeet house there, and we can bring this down. So by manipulating these two slide bars, we can find anything on here we want. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're now going to go up and set the scales. We need to be able to explain to the software how big an area this piece of cardboard is that has the holes on it, so it can scale things. So when we click Set Scale, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to load in the values so that I don't forget. Now remember, horizontally our cardboard was 40 inches, and vertically our cardboard was 48 inches. And then I'm going to, I have to place some markers around the outside. And here is the bottom of the piece of cardboard, and you can see a green arrowhead right here, and I want to click and drag that and put it kind of in the middle and right on the edge of the piece of cardboard. Now I'm going to move to the scroll bar on the right, slide that up, and I'm going to take the green arrow on the top and move that to the edge of the cardboard. Okay, now bringing this down on the right hand side, we should find another arrow here somewhere. Let's go ahead and get this one on the left hand side. We're going to go ahead and click and drag that. I'm going to bring that up the cardboard a ways and put it right there. And now let's go back over to the right hand side and see if we can't find the green arrow over here. And there it was. I couldn't find it easy before, but it was too far to the right. So if you have trouble finding these, just keep moving around, you'll find it. Okay, so now what I've done at this point is basically I have placed 4 green arrows on the edges of the cardboard, top and bottom, left and right, and basically that in combination with up here at the top where I've said the cardboard is 40 inches wide and 48 inches high will allow the software to scale this so that we can believe the inches that it tells us later on. Now the final thing that we must do is we must place this symbol right here, which is a circle with some marks on it, at the exact point that we were aiming. Okay, now I've looked at enough of these to know that that mark right there is the screw hole that came through on my square, my 5-inch square, and I'm going to move this just sort of into that region to start out with, and then I'm going to go on up and I'm going to zoom in. And of course when I zoom, it'll move to a place where I can't see anything, so I'm going to have to use my scrolls now and come down and find the center and locate best I can. There it is. All right. So you understand what I did there? I basically had to zoom in so I could see, get a better view of this, and then I had to work my way around and get back to where I was. So now that is the screw hole. And so now I'm going to click and drag that more precisely so that you can see right there that I'm telling DryFire that this is the point I was aiming at. Okay. Now the next thing that I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to cover that large screw hole with a mark so that the pellet counter doesn't count that as a pellet hole. And I'm going to do that by clicking on this red symbol here, and then I'm coming back down and I'm pointing right to the screw hole and I'm clicking on it, and now by putting that red over there, the software will not consider that a pellet hole, but of course you and I can both see that right here this is a pellet hole. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is to tell this software what area to confine it's looking for pellet holes, and you can see pellet holes throughout this whole area. And we confine where it looks for pellet holes by clicking this symbol. And then I'm going to go back up again to the scaling, and I'm going to bring this down to where I can see the whole thing. And on the upper left and lower right corner, there's a device that will allow me that I can click and drag this. And notice that what you're going to be counting is anything inside that is white. It's going to look for pellets inside of there. Now, if I put that there, and then let's move this over to the side, I want to make sure that none of the green goes outside of the cardboard. because sometimes when you do your photograph, it isn't perfectly square, and so this piece of cardboard is not perfectly square in the imagery, and sometimes we have to adjust for that a little. Now I'm going to move the scroll up the left-hand side, and let's go and start out by setting the upper left-hand corner. And here you can see what I'm talking about. Notice here how much cardboard there is, and as we go to the right, there's less and less cardboard. I'm going to slide that over, and I wanted to make sure that I don't end up saying that I'm looking for pellets beyond the border of the cardboard. So you can see that if I brought this on this corner all the way up to the top, then I've got a whole wedge across here where I'm looking for pellets out in the sky or the background. So I'm going to bring that down. Okay. And then what I'm going to do to make sure I feel comfortable about all of this is I'm going to go ahead and zoom all the way pretty much up to the maximum size. And then I'm going to start moving across all around the edge. Here we are starting in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm just looking as I go across here, and I want to make sure there is actually a pellet outside of here that appears to be a pellet. And what I'm going to do in order to tell the system to count that is I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and then I'm going to come down and click here, and then I'm going to move on. It seldom happens that there's a pellet hole outside. Here's another pellet hole. So I'm going to again click that and click down here. All right, now moving on down this side. Everything looks good coming down this side. Now here's the big hole where we had to screw through here, so I want to cover that up. So I'm going to select this size, and I'm going to click that, and now it won't count anything there. Moving on down to the bottom right-hand corner, and then let's move across the bottom. We look like we're in pretty good shape across the bottom. I'm over to the left edge. Now let's go up the left side. Here we have, again, let's go ahead and block him out. That was another of the screw holes. Incidentally, that's a pellet hole right there, but it's inside the viewing area, so we'll pick that up. A couple more pellets out that far. Moving all the way to the top corner. Now this one up here, this is also our final screw hole in the upper left-hand corner, so let's cover it so it doesn't count it as a pellet. Now I'm going to go back up here and minimize this and kind of move this into place so you get a little bit of a picture. So there's the bottom of it. You can see the red mark where we had the screw holes. If we slide up and look farther, I've also got a very small mark right there. I didn't want to make it a big one because there was a pellet right alongside of it that I wanted it to count. And then on this side we covered the screw hole, and on this side it was outside the area that we were looking at. Now we are ready to allow the pattern analyzer to recognize and locate all of the pellets within this white area that we have outlined. And we're going to do that by a couple of steps. First, we're going to come up here and we're going to check mark size, and we're also going to check mark double. And this will help it to find the holes and any places where there are two pellets that are so close together that it's really not one hole but it's two. This will help it recognize that. Now this is the slider that basically works along with a camera photograph, and as it says there, we're going to adjust the automatic detection with this. And so I'm going to pull this over. Let's go halfway to start out with and let go of that, and then we're going to go over here and click on update, and we're going to look on the right hand side of the screen, and we see for the first time over here the pellet arrangement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull the slider down the side, and we're going to see if we're anywhere near our 465 pellets that we should have in 1 1/8 ounce of number 8s. And we only show 303, so we better go up here and make this sensitivity a little bit higher. Let's go up to about 3/4, and then let's go ahead and update it once again. And now over here on the right hand side it's showing 452 pellets. Let's go back up here and let's make it a little bit more sensitive. See if we can pick up even a few more pellets. I'm going to click update again, and we're at 454. I'll try a little bit farther, but if we go too far, then it'll start picking up things that really aren't there either. So we have to be a little bit careful how we go to these spots. So if I click update, well, we're at 453, 452. So this is about the number of pellets that we're going to find out of the 465 that are normally inside of 1 1/8 ounce of number 8s. And of course that can vary from manufacturer to manufacturer slightly, and that's the way it goes. So the next thing that we're going to do is go over to this right hand side and take a little bit closer look at what this is all about and what we can determine. So I want to go into this area here and explain this very carefully because it's easy to get mixed up here. This black X that we're seeing here is always representing, this is the center of the pellets on the cardboard that is imaged on the left hand side. So this is where the center of, if you analyzed all of the 453 pellets here and mathematically determined where the center is, this is where the center is. Now you recall that we placed a little green thing that looked like this exactly where we were aiming. So our aiming point is here, and the center of the actual shotgun pattern was high and a little bit to the left. Now let's go down and explore and see exactly how much that is. If we come down into the pattern statistics area here, we have one called point of aim X and Y. Alright, the first one here, X, this is the left and right, the horizontal portion. And so if we go back up and look here and talk about it, what we're really saying is that the center of our pattern, left to right, was 76/100ths of an inch to the left of our exact aiming point. Pretty close. And then if we look at the Y, which is the vertical dimension here, we find that the vertical dimension was 6.97 inches higher than our aiming point. So we aimed here, and the center of our pattern on our piece of cardboard was almost 7 inches higher, and it was 3/4 of an inch to the left. Now that's very, very good when you consider that what we're hoping for and what we wanted this particular barrel to pattern at was 7 inches high and perfect left to right. Well, we're within 3/4 of an inch left to right, and we're within 3/100ths of an inch vertically. Now the only thing that I would say here that we would need to do with this barrel is to again pattern this 3 or 4 more times and make sure that this first pattern that we took did not have some irregularity in it, and that we can believe it. And if we do 3, 4, 5 shells, and this is basically what we keep getting, we could actually average those 4 or 5 shells and determine exactly what we think. One final thing. Coming down to the bottom, we have an area called 75% shot diameter. And if you recall, I've spoken many times about the fact that a typical full choke at 33 yards produces a 22-inch pattern. We've talked about that over and over again. So what we're seeing with this gun, which has a full choke in it, that at 33 yards it is 24.5 inches in diameter. So it's not quite as tight as a full choke could be, and we may want to do some experimentation with this gun, with different chokes in this gun, to see if we can't find a choke that performs just slightly better. It isn't too bad, 24.5 versus 22, and again, by the time we take 3, 4, 5 more shots and average this together, we may find out that we're fairly close. So what I want to say at this point in time is that I thank Dr. Jones for having gone through 7 years of experimentation, producing this piece of software, which he very graciously has allowed the entire world to use. And I quite frankly think that if you see this and you don't decide that you're going to start using this on a regular basis to get your guns tuned in properly, boy, you're just not using very good common sense. There is nothing that has ever been built that does a better job of helping us take a gun and find out exactly what it's doing, and then be able to modify the stock in order to tune it into exactly where we need to go. And so that's what I've got to say. If you like this, and I believe it would really be nice as you get to use this, just send Dr. Jones an email and thank him for all of the work that he's done and his graciousness for allowing us to use this tool. We thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed this. That's it for this time.